It was just another ordinary morning at the local school. The sun had barely risen, but the hallways were already alive with the chatter and laughter of students. Backpacks bounced on shoulders as kids hurried to their classrooms exchanging greetings with friends and sharing little secrets from the weekend. Teachers were busy arranging their lessons, glancing occasionally at the clock, preparing for the day ahead. On the surface, everything seemed normal, just like any other school day. But little did anyone know that this day was about to take a turn that nobody would forget. In the middle of all this usual activity, there was a principal known for his strict rules but also a playful sense of humor. He had a reputation for surprising students in unexpected ways, sometimes with fun announcements, sometimes with harmless pranks that left the students both laughing and bewildered. On this particular morning, he noticed a student sitting quietly in the corner of the hallway, a young black boy who was known to be shy and reserved. Unlike many of his classmates who loved attention, this boy preferred to keep to himself, often immersed in his books or quietly observing the world around him. The principal, ever the prankster, saw an opportunity for one of his classic playful tricks. He thought it would be funny to put the boy in the spotlight for a moment, imagining the surprised reactions of the students. What the principal did not realize, however, was that this seemingly small act would spark an unforgettable event that would soon have the entire school talking. The boy, unaware of the plan, continued his quiet routine, flipping through his notebook and lost in his own thoughts. He had no idea that he was about to be asked to perform in front of dozens of his peers. As students wandered through the halls, some noticed the principal glancing toward the boy with a mischievous smile. Whispers began to spread among small groups of students, though no one knew exactly what was about to happen. Some laughed at the thought of the shy boy being put on the spot. Others felt a little nervous on his behalf, sensing that this could be a tricky situation. The hallways were filled with a mixture of curiosity, excitement, and a faint tension that made everyone wonder what would unfold. At this moment, the school was a microcosm of typical childhood life, full of energy, noise, and anticipation. Students chatted about homework, weekend plans, and the latest gossip, completely unaware that the next event would make them witness something extraordinary. In many ways, this ordinary school day was the perfect setting for an extraordinary story. The ordinary moments, the laughter, the jokes, the casual walking through the hallways, set the stage for a moment that nobody could have predicted. The contrast between the normal morning and the surprise that was about to happen made the story even more compelling. Meanwhile, the young boy continued to sit quietly, focused on nothing more than his own thoughts. He had no inkling that he would soon be asked to do something out of the ordinary, something that could change how everyone saw him. The principal's plan was simple, a harmless prank that would catch the boy off guard. He imagined the laughter, the gasps, and the playful chaos that usually accompanied his little tricks. What he did not realize, however, was that the boy had a hidden talent, one that would soon turn a simple prank into a moment of awe and inspiration. The anticipation in the school building was subtle but growing. Teachers were preparing for lessons, students were heading to their classes, and the principal was carefully planning the next step in his prank. Everything seemed calm on the surface, but beneath it, the atmosphere was charged with an unspoken energy. Something unusual was about to happen, and even though no one could see it yet, the story was quietly unfolding. The ordinary routine of the school day was about to be interrupted by a moment that would leave a lasting impression on everyone present. In this calm before the storm, the story captures a simple truth. Even the most ordinary days can hold extraordinary moments. The quiet hallways, the regular chatter, and the mundane routines all set the perfect backdrop for a moment of surprise, talent, and inspiration. This introduction establishes not just the setting but also the tone of the story, a mix of everyday life and the unexpected magic that can appear when we least expect it. Little did anyone know, what seemed like a normal day at school was about to become a memory that every student and teacher would carry with them forever. The bell had just rung, signaling the start of the morning assembly, and the students began filing into the auditorium, their chatter echoing off the walls. The principal stood near the stage, a twinkle of mischief in his eye, scanning the crowd. He had been thinking about a playful idea for days, something that would surprise the students and, in his mind, create a funny story to tell later. His eyes landed on a young black boy sitting quietly in the front row, headphones still dangling from his ears, seemingly lost in his own world. The boy was polite, shy, and unassuming, exactly the type of student who usually went unnoticed in the daily hustle of school life. To the principal, that made him the perfect target for a harmless prank. The plan was simple. He would ask the boy to play the piano in front of the entire school, pretending it was just part of a fun demonstration. Of course, the principal assumed it would be awkward, maybe even a little embarrassing for the boy, and he imagined the students laughing, whispering, and exchanging amused glances. He pictured the boy's startled reaction, expecting it to be a moment of lighthearted comedy. The truth was, the principal had no idea what he was about to uncover, the hidden talent that would transform a simple prank into something unforgettable. As the principal called the boy up to the stage, whispers began to ripple through the assembly. Students exchanged curious glances, some giggling nervously, others wide-eyed with anticipation. A few older students muttered under their breath, recalling other pranks the principal had pulled in the past. None of them could have predicted the spectacle that was about to unfold. The boy, hesitant and confused, stood up slowly. His hands trembled slightly, but he followed the principal's gesture toward the piano. Every step he took felt heavier than the last, as though the weight of the entire school's attention rested on his shoulders. The auditorium seemed to shrink around him, the chatter fading into silence. Eyes followed his every move, and the whispers were replaced by the quiet hum of expectation. In that moment, the prank felt much larger than the principal had intended. The boy approached the piano cautiously, glancing down at the keys, unsure if he could meet the sudden demands placed upon him. The students in the back of the room craned their necks to get a better look, some nudging their friends and holding back giggles while others watched silently. Sensing that this moment might turn out differently than expected, the principal gave him an encouraging nod, trying to hide a small smile behind his serious expression. "Just play something for us," he said casually, as though it were the simplest request in the world. The boy swallowed hard, unsure if he could. He had never performed in front of such a large audience before. The piano, polished and gleaming under the stage lights, seemed enormous to him now, its black and white keys stretching endlessly in front of him. Every student's gaze felt like a weight pressing down on him, and for a moment fear threatened to take over. But as he placed his fingers on the keys, something remarkable began to happen. The boy's nervousness started to melt away, replaced by a quiet focus. The first note rang out clearly, filling the auditorium with a sound so pure and confident that it immediately caught everyone off guard. The principal's eyes widened slightly in surprise, though he quickly masked it behind a composed expression. The students who had expected an awkward moment of comedy were suddenly holding their breath, captivated by the unexpected skill coming from someone they had underestimated. The prank, which had been meant to provoke laughter, was transforming into a showcase of talent. The boy's fingers moved across the piano with ease and grace, each note perfectly timed, each chord resonating with emotion. Students who had been ready to snicker or whisper were now leaning forward in astonishment, their faces filled with admiration. Even the teachers, who had seen many students over the years, couldn't help but be impressed. What had been intended as a joke was quickly turning into a moment of awe, a memory that would be etched into the minds of everyone present. It was in that moment that the true magic of the situation became clear. The prank had revealed something far greater than embarrassment or comedy. It highlighted resilience, hidden talent, and the unexpected ways in which ordinary moments can turn extraordinary. The boy, once shy and overlooked, was now commanding the attention of the entire school, not through forced humor, but through genuine skill. The prank had become something entirely different, a moment of inspiration, a lesson in courage, and a powerful reminder that we never truly know what someone is capable of until they are given the chance to shine. As the first note rang out, a hush swept across the auditorium. The sound was so clear, so unexpected, that it felt like the room itself had paused to listen. Students who had been ready to snicker or whisper suddenly froze, their eyes wide, jaws slightly dropped. The principal, who had been expecting a moment of awkward comedy, couldn't help but blink in surprise. He had not imagined that the boy, quiet, shy, almost invisible in the school corridors, would produce such a flawless sound. The first note was enough to stop the chatter, but it was only the beginning. At first, some students exchanged confused glances. "Wait, is he really playing that well?" one whispered. Another nudged their friend and whispered, "I didn't know he could do that." Murmurs rippled quietly through the crowd, growing into a collective sense of astonishment. The prank that had been meant to provoke embarrassment was failing spectacularly in its original intent. Laughter, which had been expected, vanished completely. Instead, a feeling of suspense mixed with admiration filled the air. The boy's hands, which had been trembling just moments before, now moved with calm precision across the piano keys. Each chord was deliberate, confident, and surprisingly emotive. It was clear that he wasn't just playing a few random notes. He knew the music intimately. The students leaned forward, some gripping the edges of their seats, captivated by a performance that no one saw coming. Teachers, too, felt the tension shift. Their surprise quickly turned into pride and admiration. One of the music teachers unconsciously straightened her posture, recognizing the talent in front of her as something rare, something remarkable. There were those who had initially laughed or whispered, but now their reactions changed. Some couldn't hide their amazement, their eyes wide as they stared in disbelief. Others quickly nudged their friends and whispered things like, "Wow, I didn't expect that at all." Even the older students, who often scoffed at school events, were quietly impressed. The boys' performance created an unexpected sense of unity. Students who had been chatting with friends were now fully focused on the piano, their attention captured completely by the music. The principal, standing just a few feet away, couldn't suppress a grin. What had started as a playful prank had unintentionally become a showcase of extraordinary talent. He realized almost immediately that this moment was no longer about a joke, it was about witnessing something rare and special. The prank had inadvertently given the boy a stage, and he was seizing it in a way that left everyone spellbound. The intended laughter was replaced with stunned silence and soft murmurs of admiration. Even the boy himself began to change visibly. At first he had been nervous, unsure, and hesitant, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze like a tangible pressure. But as he continued playing, his posture straightened, his shoulders relaxed, and a quiet confidence replaced the anxiety on his face. He was no longer just a shy student performing under pressure. He was an artist fully immersed in the music, commanding the room without saying a word. Each note he played drew the audience further in, and the prank that had meant to embarrass him now seemed almost insignificant compared to the sheer power of his talent. By the middle of the piece, the entire school was listening as if the music itself had stopped time. Students forgot about their phones, the whispers, the gossip, everything melted away. They were caught in the moment, mesmerized by what they were witnessing. Some students' mouths hung slightly open in astonishment, while others had their hands pressed against their chins as though they couldn't believe their eyes and ears. The atmosphere had shifted completely from playful chaos to awe and admiration. The initial reaction, which had been expected to be laughter and light teasing, had completely transformed. The boy's quiet strength, his focus, and the unexpected beauty of the music had turned the prank on its head. What started as a joke had now become a powerful moment of inspiration for everyone present. The students realized that they had underestimated him, and in that instant the boy earned not just respect but admiration from peers and teachers alike. The prank had unintentionally revealed something far greater than anyone had anticipated, a glimpse of hidden talent, courage and resilience that could not be ignored. And so, the first reaction, hesitation, fear, and confusion, evolved into pure amazement. The prank had done what no one could have predicted. It captured hearts, shifted perceptions, and turned a quiet, unassuming student into the center of an unforgettable moment. What was meant to be a simple, funny setup had become a powerful, inspiring event that would be remembered for years to come. The moment the boy's fingers touched the piano keys, a strange hush fell over the auditorium. It was as if the entire school collectively held its breath. The first note rang out, not loud or exaggerated, but perfectly clear, precise, and full of emotion. It floated through the room, lingering in the air, making every student and teacher pause. The sound seemed to vibrate softly against the walls, echoing in the ears of everyone present. It was the kind of note that demanded attention, A simple tone that carried a quiet confidence, and in that instant, all previous expectations vanished. Students who had been anticipating a humorous disaster now stared in disbelief. A few mouths dropped open, and whispers that had been building into stifled laughter quickly died out. "Did he just play that?" one student muttered under their breath. The boy who had only moments ago been trembling with nervousness now seemed to transform before their very eyes. His eyes were focused, his posture steadied, and his fingers glided over the keys with surprising grace. Every movement looked intentional, deliberate, as though he had been preparing for this moment all his life, even if no one had known it. Teachers exchanged glances, a mix of astonishment and pride shining on their faces. The music teacher, who had been watching silently from the side, almost couldn't believe what she was hearing. She recognized the precision in his touch, the rhythm and emotion behind each note. It wasn't just skill, it was artistry. The principal, who had expected a moment of comedy, now felt a mix of shock and admiration. He had unwittingly given the boy a stage, and the boy had claimed it in the most extraordinary way imaginable. Even the students in the back of the auditorium, who had been joking and whispering just moments ago, sat straighter, craning their necks to get a better view. The first note had done more than just sound beautiful. It had shifted the atmosphere entirely. The room, once filled with casual chatter and restless energy, was now silent except for the music. It was as if the piano had cast a spell, holding everyone's attention, commanding their focus. No one laughed, no one whispered. All eyes were glued to the boy and the instrument under his hands. There was a subtle magic in that first note. It wasn't the complexity of the melody or the speed of his fingers. It was the confidence it carried. It was the kind of note that communicates something unspoken, a quiet strength, a hidden depth, a story that words cannot express. The boy who had seemed shy and unsure just moments earlier now radiated a quiet authority, not through words but through music. The prank that had been intended to embarrass him now seemed almost insignificant compared to the power of what he was creating. Students began to lean forward in their seats, instinctively drawn closer by the sound. Some had tears welling up in their eyes, touched by the unexpected beauty of the moment. Others exchanged glances, shaking their heads in disbelief. Even the older students, known for their indifferent attitudes, were now completely absorbed. No one had predicted that a simple prank could produce something so moving, so unexpectedly powerful. The boy himself seemed to change with the note. Nervousness melted into concentration, and concentration turned into quiet joy. It was as if the piano was no longer a challenge, no longer a source of fear, but an extension of himself. Every key he pressed carried intention. Every chord resonated with emotion, and with each sound, the first wave of awe from the audience grew stronger. The initial joke had transformed into an extraordinary performance that none of the onlookers could have anticipated. As the first note lingered, the room seemed suspended in time. The students forgot about their friends, the whispers, even their own expectations. Teachers held their breath, unable to look away. And the principal, who had orchestrated the prank, realized that the boy's talent had turned what he thought would be a humorous moment into a deeply moving experience. The first note had broken the spell of anticipation, replacing it with awe, respect, and a sense of witnessing something truly rare. It was in that brief moment, the first note, that the entire tone of the event changed. What had begun as a prank, designed to make a shy boy the center of laughter, had now become a moment of admiration, inspiration, and unexpected beauty. Every student in the room realized that they were no longer merely spectators of a prank. They were witnesses to the beginning of something extraordinary. That single note, simple yet perfect, had set the stage for a performance that would shock, inspire, and forever change the way the school remembered that day. As the boy continued to play, it quickly became clear that what the principal had intended as a harmless prank had turned into something far greater, something truly unforgettable. The initial note had been just a glimpse, a hint of what was coming, but now, with every chord and melody, the boy revealed a level of skill and emotion that nobody in the auditorium had anticipated. His fingers danced across the keys with precision and fluidity, producing a sound so rich and full that it seemed almost impossible for someone so young and unassuming. The students were completely captivated. Those who had been whispering and giggling at the start now sat in stunned silence, their eyes glued to the piano, and the boy who seemed to command it with every movement. Some students leaned forward, their hands gripping the edges of their seats as if they might be pulled into the music itself. Others rested their chins in their hands, mouths slightly open, struggling to process what they were witnessing. Even the students in the back rows who had been distracted just moments before were now entirely absorbed, unable to look away. Teachers, too, were visibly moved. The music teacher, who had spent years watching students perform, had her hand pressed to her mouth in astonishment. She recognized the finesse, the technique, and the raw talent in every note. It was not just skill, it was artistry, combined with confidence, poise, and an emotional depth that elevated the performance to something extraordinary. The principal, who had been expecting a laugh or a moment of embarrassment, could only stand in silent awe, realizing that the boy had taken the prank and completely transformed it into a demonstration of brilliance. The melody itself was enchanting. It flowed effortlessly, rising and falling with emotion, moving seamlessly from one phrase to another as if the boy had written the music himself. Every chord, every trill, every subtle pause captured the attention of the audience. It was as though the piano had become a storyteller, and the boy, with his skillful hands and focused expression, was narrating a story that spoke directly to the hearts of everyone in the room. Some students felt a shiver run down their spines. Others had tears glimmering in the corners of their eyes. Even the atmosphere in the room had changed. The prank, which had been intended as something humorous, now felt almost sacred. The quiet tension, the whispers, the nervous anticipation, it had all been replaced by a shared sense of awe. Students and teachers alike were experiencing a rare moment of collective admiration, drawn together by the beauty and power of the boy's performance. Every note seemed to command respect. Every pause was filled with anticipation, and the music itself demanded attention. The boy's confidence grew with each passing moment. What had begun as nervousness and hesitation transformed into calm assurance. His body moved naturally with the rhythm, his fingers flying over the keys without any apparent effort. There was a subtle joy in his expression, a quiet satisfaction in the mastery he was displaying. The boy was no longer a nervous student caught in a prank. He had become a performer, a musician commanding the stage and a source of inspiration for everyone present. By the middle of the performance, it was clear that this was no ordinary talent. The boy was executing complex passages flawlessly, blending technical mastery with emotional expression. Students were gasping softly, exchanging amazed glances. Teachers whispered to one another, incredulous that such skill could come from someone so young, so quiet, so overlooked. The principal, who had orchestrated the prank, felt a mix of pride and awe. He realized that what he had thought would be a fleeting joke had revealed a prodigy, someone whose abilities went far beyond what anyone had imagined. The audience's reaction shifted from surprise to admiration. Laughter and whispers had completely disappeared, replaced by silent respect and unspoken wonder. Students were witnessing a rare transformation. A shy, quiet boy had taken a moment designed to humiliate him and turned it into an unforgettable display of talent. The performance was no longer a simple prank. It had become a powerful statement about courage, skill, and the unexpected brilliance that can emerge from the most unlikely places. As the boy continued, the room seemed to vibrate with energy. The sound of the piano filled every corner of the auditorium, drawing the attention of every student, teacher, and staff member present. The prank had been completely overshadowed by the overwhelming talent now on display. What had started as a joke had grown into a moment of inspiration, a lesson in the power of hidden potential and the importance of giving everyone a chance to shine. In that moment, the boy had not only played the piano, he had captured hearts, shifted perspectives, and transformed a simple prank into something remarkable. The audience realized that they were witnessing not just a performance, but the beginning of a story that would be remembered for years. The boy's unbelievable talent had turned the ordinary into the extraordinary, leaving everyone in awe and proving that sometimes true brilliance emerges when it is least expected. As the last chord of the boy's melody lingered in the air, an almost tangible energy filled the auditorium. The room that had been alive with whispers, laughter, and anticipation only moments ago was now charged with awe. Every student, teacher, and staff member had been caught completely off guard by the sheer brilliance of the performance. The prank, which had been designed to spark laughter, had backfired in the most magnificent way possible, replacing humor with admiration, surprise with inspiration. The students were the first to react, though not in the way anyone had expected. Some simply sat frozen, their eyes wide, still processing the skill and confidence they had just witnessed. Others let out soft gasps, a collective murmur of disbelief spreading like wildfire. "Did he really just do that?" one student whispered, unable to contain their amazement. Friends nudged each other, shaking their heads, some with grins of astonishment, others with tears of admiration forming in the corners of their eyes. The reactions were so universal, so immediate, that it felt as though the music had left an invisible mark on everyone present. The younger students, who had been whispering and giggling earlier, now stared in complete awe. A few of them even clutched their desks, unable to believe the transformation that had taken place before their eyes. The shy, quiet boy who had been the target of a prank had become a figure of unexpected power and brilliance. They had come expecting humor, but instead they were witnessing something profoundly moving. Many of the students exchanged glances, nodding slowly, silently acknowledging the remarkable display of talent in front of them. The older students, known for their skepticism and often casual indifference, were equally stunned. They had assumed the prank would be a moment of mild amusement, a chance to laugh at someone else's nervousness. Instead, they were confronted with something extraordinary. Some of them leaned forward, their elbows resting on their knees, completely captivated. Others whispered softly to one another, words tinged with respect and astonishment. "I didn't expect that. He's incredible." Even the students who had initially laughed were now clapping softly, a quiet recognition of something far greater than they could have imagined. The teachers' reactions were just as profound. Music teachers exchanged impressed glances, nodding in acknowledgement of the boys' technical skill and emotional depth. Other teachers, who had no formal music training, felt a mixture of admiration and pride. Their eyes glimmered with the realization that they had just witnessed a rare, once-in-a-lifetime moment. Even the principal who had orchestrated the prank stood in silence, a subtle smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. He had unintentionally given the boy a stage, and the boy had claimed it in a way that left everyone present in complete amazement. Parents who had been attending the assembly were equally affected. Some had their hands pressed to their chests, feeling the emotional power of the music. Others exchanged looks of quiet pride, inspired by the courage and skill of someone so young. The boys' performance had transcended the boundaries of a simple prank. It had become a collective experience, uniting everyone in the room through the raw power of talent and determination. Slowly, the initial shock gave way to enthusiastic applause. The first few claps were tentative, almost as if no one wanted to break the spell of the moment. But the applause quickly grew, swelling into a full rhythmic celebration of the boys' talent. Students jumped to their feet, cheering loudly, some whooping in disbelief, others clapping with uncontained excitement. The auditorium, once quiet with awe, was now filled with a chorus of admiration, a celebration that honored both the skill and the courage of the young performer. What made the crowd's reaction so remarkable wasn't just the volume or intensity of the applause. It was the transformation of emotion. Laughter had been replaced by admiration. Whispered jokes had turned into whispers of respect. Nervous anticipation had blossomed into collective joy. Every person in that room had shifted their perception, realizing that the boy's talent was far beyond what anyone could have expected. The prank had inadvertently revealed not just skill, but character, courage, and determination. In that moment, the young boy became more than just a student or the subject of a prank. He became a symbol of hidden potential, a reminder that talent often lies where we least expect it, and that courage can shine brightest in the most unlikely moments. The reactions of the crowd reflected this realization. They were no longer laughing at him. They were celebrating him, inspired by the unexpected brilliance that had emerged from what had seemed like an ordinary school day. By the end of the performance, the auditorium was alive with admiration, applause, and excited chatter. Students were talking excitedly to one another. Teachers were shaking their heads in amazement, and the principal stood silently, still processing the turn of events. The prank, meant to embarrass, had evolved into a moment of pure inspiration, one that would be remembered by everyone present for years to come. The crowd's reaction had immortalized the performance not as a joke, but as a celebration of talent, courage, and the extraordinary potential hidden within an ordinary young boy. The performance had ended, but the impact of the music lingered in the air, thick and electric, like the last note of a symphony vibrating long after the piano had fallen silent. For a few seconds, no one moved. Students, teachers, and parents alike sat frozen, eyes wide, mouths slightly open, each of them trying to process the extraordinary talent they had just witnessed. The prank, which had been designed to provoke laughter and embarrassment, had completely backfired, transforming into an unforgettable moment of recognition, admiration, and pure awe. Slowly, the first sound of applause began to ripple through the room. It was soft at first, almost tentative, as though no one wanted to break the spell that the boys' music had cast. But within seconds, that tentative clap became a thunderous ovation. Students jumped to their feet, cheering, whistling, and shouting in disbelief. "Wow, that was incredible!" A voice called out from the back, echoed by dozens of others. The auditorium shook with excitement as the crowd erupted into a wave of appreciation, celebrating the young performer who had transformed what was meant to be a joke into an awe-inspiring display of talent. Teachers moved forward, some clapping vigorously, others wiping away quiet tears of pride and admiration. They had seen many students over the years, many performances, but few had ever evoked such a raw collective reaction. The boy had not only played flawlessly, but he had also commanded the room with a confidence and poise far beyond his years. The music itself had become a bridge, connecting everyone in the auditorium, and the recognition he received was immediate and heartfelt. The principal, who had orchestrated the prank, now stepped forward, his face a mixture of humility, pride, and astonishment. He cleared his throat and the applause quieted slightly as all eyes turned toward him. "Today," he began, "we witnessed something truly extraordinary. What started as a small joke revealed a talent that none of us could have imagined. We are all lucky to have witnessed this moment." His words were met with renewed cheers, but more importantly, they acknowledged the courage, skill, and composure of the boy who had taken the stage. The boy himself stood quietly at the piano, a mixture of relief and shy pride washing over him. He had expected laughter, maybe even ridicule, but instead he was met with admiration, encouragement, and respect. Students came forward, shaking his hand, patting his back, and offering heartfelt congratulations. Even some of the students who had initially whispered jokes or laughed nervously were now smiling broadly, humbled and impressed by the remarkable performance they had just witnessed. The recognition from peers, teachers, and staff created a powerful sense of validation that the boy had likely never experienced before. Parents attending the assembly were equally moved. Some approached him with tears in their eyes, praising his courage and skill. "You are amazing," one whispered softly. "Never stop playing. You have a gift." The boy's face lit up with a quiet smile, his initial nerves replaced by pride. For the first time in a very long time, he felt truly seen, not just for his talent, but for his perseverance, his courage, and his willingness to rise to a challenge that could have been humiliating. The recognition extended beyond words. The school principal announced that the boy would be given the opportunity to perform at future school events, highlighting his talent to the wider community. Teachers spoke to him privately, offering mentorship and encouragement, recognizing the rare potential they had just witnessed. Students who had once overlooked him now sought his friendship and advice, inspired by his ability to transform an awkward moment into one of triumph. The applause, the congratulations, and the recognition served not only to honor his skill but also to reaffirm his self-confidence and courage. In that moment, the boy understood something profound. Recognition was not about fame or attention, but about acknowledgement of effort, bravery, and authentic talent. The prank, initially intended to embarrass him, had given him a stage to reveal his true abilities. He had faced fear and uncertainty, and in doing so, he had gained the admiration of an entire school. The accolades, the praise, and the recognition were not just for a performance. They were for the courage to step into the spotlight, to transform pressure into art, and to inspire everyone who witnessed it. By the end of the assembly, the boy stood surrounded by applause, cheers, and words of encouragement. He had turned a prank into a triumph, nervousness into confidence, and an ordinary school day into a memory that would be cherished by the entire school community. The recognition he received was profound and lasting, a testament to the power of hidden talent, determination, and the courage to shine even in the face of uncertainty. The auditorium was buzzing with excitement, the echoes of applause and cheers slowly fading into an atmosphere of reflection and quiet admiration. What had started as a lighthearted prank had transformed into a moment that no one in the school would ever forget. The young boy, once quiet and unassuming, had taken the challenge thrust upon him and turned it into an unforgettable display of talent, courage, and resilience. In the eyes of students, teachers, and parents alike, he had become more than just a performer. He had become an inspiration. In the minutes following the performance, students were still talking in hushed, awed tones, recounting every detail of the boy's skillful fingers, the emotion in his playing, and the way he had filled the room with music. Teachers exchanged quiet smiles, acknowledging that they had witnessed a rare and extraordinary moment. Even the principal, whose prank had unintentionally set the stage for this triumph, felt a sense of pride and humility. He realized that sometimes the most unexpected events, those intended to provoke laughter or surprise, can reveal the true potential within someone, showing the world something it had never seen before. The boy himself felt a profound change within. Nervousness and fear had once gripped him, but now he felt confidence blossoming, a quiet assurance that he could rise to any challenge. He understood more deeply than ever that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to face it. By stepping forward, by playing the piano in front of an audience that had expected him to falter, he had discovered the power of resilience and the strength that comes from believing in oneself. The applause and recognition were rewarding, yes, but the greatest triumph was internal, a newfound self-respect and an understanding of his own capabilities. The story of that day spread quickly through the school. Students who had doubted themselves were inspired by the boy's bravery. Teachers were reminded of the importance of nurturing hidden talent, and parents were encouraged to support and believe in their children's abilities. The prank, which could have been embarrassing or humiliating, instead became a story of transformation, a reminder that moments of challenge often reveal hidden strengths. It was a lesson that extended beyond music, beyond the school and into life itself. Sometimes, the opportunities that seem the most intimidating or uncomfortable can lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. As the boy walked away from the piano, he received pats on the back, congratulations, and even shy nods of admiration from students who had never spoken to him before. Every person in the room had seen something remarkable. The quiet determination of a young boy who had faced a challenge head-on and emerged triumphant. The prank had inadvertently become a stage for greatness, proving that talent can shine brightest when least expected, and that courage and skill together can transform even ordinary circumstances into extraordinary memories. Looking back, the event was more than a prank or a performance. It was a life lesson for everyone present. It highlighted the importance of recognizing potential, encouraging perseverance, and allowing people to rise above expectations. It was a testament to the power of resilience, the beauty of hidden talent, and the unpredictability of life's most memorable moments. The boy's performance reminded everyone that greatness can emerge from the quietest, most overlooked places, and that sometimes the world's most astonishing moments arrive when you least expect them. By the end of the day, the school felt different, not in its structure or schedule, but in its energy. The students had learned that courage and talent could create awe-inspiring moments. Teachers had seen the impact of encouragement and opportunity, and the principal had learned that even a small prank could lead to something extraordinary. That one ordinary day had become extraordinary, not because of the joke itself, but because of how one young boy chose to respond. In the end, the moral was simple yet powerful. Life will often present challenges that feel daunting or unfair, but with courage, determination, and belief in oneself, those very challenges can become opportunities to shine. The prank that began as a playful test ended as a celebration of talent, courage, and the incredible potential that lies within each person. It was a story that would be remembered not just for the music, not just for the applause, but for the inspiration it provided, proof that even in the most unexpected moments, greatness can be revealed.